My concept of successful living is escaping the matrix, as we talked about, It, has very little to do with what people think success is. I actually feel successful right now, even though, I don't have an album out or a video or a song on the radio.
Lauryn Hill used to run the game. Straight up legend status. Grammys, worldwide respect, and the miseducation of Lauryn Hill playing nonstop from dorm rooms to radio stations. So how did one of the most powerful voices of her generation just fade out the spotlight? Like poof, gone? Something ain't adding up. Now here's where it gets wild. Folks in the industry been whispering for years that Diddy might have played a role in her sudden fall off. Sounds wild, right? But start looking close. And his name keeps popping up in the backstories of so many artists who blew up fast, only to get iced out just as quick. People been talking about careers tanking, record deals getting dirty, and major talents getting straight up ghosted by the industry. And guess what? Diddy's name is the one thing all these stories got in common. Think about it. Day 26, Danity Kane, and a whole lineup of once hot stars we barely even hear about anymore. Could Lauryn Hill be just another name on that shadowy list? That's the real question. Lauryn wasn't just another artist. She was all about truth, realness, and pushing back against the industry's fake moves. So maybe, just maybe, she rubbed the wrong folks the wrong way. Did she refuse to play along with the industry's secret rules? Did that get her blacklisted behind closed doors? Or was it something deeper? Some say her relationship with Wyclef while he was married stirred up drama. Others point to controversial comments she made that sparked major backlash. Then there's that massive lawsuit that hit her pockets hard. And don't forget the so-called spiritual advisor who allegedly isolated her from friends, family, everybody. This whole thing might be messier than anyone thought. But here's where things get even messier. What does MC Lyte really know? Word on the street is she's been whispering behind closed doors that somebody, maybe even Diddy, might have played a role in Lauryn Hill getting shut out of the industry. If that's true, we're talking about a serious betrayal. Now let's talk connections, because yes, Lauryn and Diddy did cross paths more than once. Lauryn started the Refugee Project, a nonprofit dedicated to helping at-risk kids in the inner city. Guess who was sitting right on the board of trustees? Diddy. So he wasn't just some random figure, he was literally involved in her world. Fast forward to 2023, they both showed up at the Roots picnic in Philly. Diddy hit the stage with the Roots, while Lauryn lit it up for the 25th anniversary of the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That was a major moment, but outside of those public appearances, there's not much documented about the two of them working closely, at least not on paper. Still, that's where the real whispers begin. Folks are saying Diddy might have pulled the same move he allegedly used on other artists and blacklisted Lauryn from the game. If that's true, it hits hard. Because Lauryn Hill wasn't just any artist, she was gold. Her voice, her vision, her message. She was born to shine. And get this, she had that star fire since day one. At just 13, she stepped on stage at the legendary Apollo Theater in New York, ready to sing the Jackson 5's Who's Lovin' You? But nerves kicked in. She struggled. The crowd booed. It was brutal. But that didn't stop her. Even then, you could see the fight in her, the kind of fire that legends are built on. So if someone really clipped her wings later in the game, that's just cold-blooded.
She stops dropping albums. I mean, she had like the MTV Unplugged album, but she doesn't really drop a real follow-up to this diamond-selling album. You know, you guys are still close. Did she tell you why she stopped making albums?
She just felt uninspired.
Listen, despite everything thrown her way, Lauryn Hill never folded. After that rough Apollo moment, she kept her head up and kept grinding. In high school, she joined a hip-hop group called the Fugees, which was started by her Haitian friend Pras. At first, it was just him and a girl named Marcy. Then they brought Lauryn in. And a year later, Wyclef and Pras's cousin jumped on board. That's when the magic started cooking. Even while juggling school, these kids were out here recording demos, booking shows, and catching the attention of major labels. By the end of the school year, 3 different record labels were ready to sign them. And Lauryn wasn't just making moves in music, she was landing acting gigs too. One of her biggest early breaks, starring in Sister Act 2 with Whoopi Goldberg. She was doing it all. But fame came with drama, and Lauryn hit her first real controversy at the height of her rise. Rumors started swirling, real ugly ones, about her allegedly saying she'd rather die or let her kids starve than have white people listen to her music. Now, these comments were never confirmed, but they set the media on fire and sparked a major backlash that never fully cooled down. Still, Lauryn pushed through the noise. The Fugees snatched up 2 Grammys, one for Best R&B Performance and another for Best Rap Album. They were winning. But right when they were on top of the world, they broke up, just like that. According to Lauryn's former manager, things got messy behind the scenes. Creative differences were the main issue. Lauryn herself said it loud and clear. "I intended to be in the group forever until I found myself in circumstances where I felt the inner desire to express myself freely and openly without any constraint." Boom. She wasn't about to let anything or anyone box her in. Now here's where things get really strange. Lauryn Hill went solo after the Fugees split, and she came out swinging. Her first album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, wasn't just good, it was a straight-up masterpiece. Over 10 million copies sold, 5 Grammy wins, and instant legend status. Like, who does that on their first try? She had chart toppers, sold-out shows, and a debut album still praised as one of the greatest of all time. But here's the wild part. How does someone that successful just disappear from the spotlight? No major second album, barely any collabs, and the industry moved on like she never even existed. Make it make sense. We're talking about a woman who should have been running the game for decades. Something or someone must have played a part in that sudden silence, right? One clue? That messy legal drama with Newark Entertainment? They claimed they didn't get proper credit for their work on Miseducation and dragged Lauryn to court. The whole thing ended in a $5 million payout from her. But according to sources, the behind-the-scenes stress from that situation was deep. Some even say it left her emotionally drained and disillusioned with the industry. And then came the pressure to top what she already created. That kind of weight, it can crush even the strongest. Instead of chasing another hit, Lauryn started pulling back, disappearing from the spotlight more and more. In a 2009 interview with Essence, Lauryn got real. She said, "I don't think I ever handled celebrity. I had to step away entirely. There were many temptations, enticements, entrapments. I was being way too compromised." That's heavy. Then, in a 2021 sit-down on Rolling Stone's Amazon Music podcast for the 500 Greatest Albums list, she opened up even more, explaining why she never dropped another full studio album. She didn't just walk away, she escaped. The game was draining her spirit, and she knew it. First off, let's talk facts. Lauryn Hill said it loud and clear. The wild thing is, no one from my label ever called me and asked, "How can we help you make another album?" Ever. Ever. Did I say ever? That wasn't just shade. That was a straight-up expose on how little support she really got after changing the game with Miseducation. Sure, the album gave her space to get creative, but the pressure to follow it up, insane. Everyone wanted another masterpiece, but behind the scenes, Lauryn was battling politics, fake agendas, and folks trying to ride her wave while dragging her down. She said people tried to force her into their stories of success. And if her truth didn't match theirs, suddenly, she was the problem.
I think that it was probably taken out of context. What I was saying is that I make my music for young black youth because I'm a young black youth myself, and there's a message in my songs.
Yes.
And that's for people who look and come from the same areas that I do. That doesn't mean that my music isn't universal.
So you don't mind white people? So you never said, "I don't want white people to buy my music"?
I mean, I'm not stupid. You know, I'm a musician, but I like to consider myself a businesswoman.
I mean, your manager's a white guy, right?
Yeah, he is.
Right.
So what was said?
She didn't stay quiet about the double standards either. Lauryn kept it real on how women in the industry get shut down for speaking up, while men can say whatever and keep it pushing. She wanted creative freedom, not control, not manipulation. And that made her a target. She called out sexism, the IRS, and the shady industry games, and they didn't like that one bit. Before long, she was labeled difficult, unreliable, and all the usual names they throw at people who don't play the game. Sure, she did show up late to a lot of performances, like real late. But what the industry ignored was why she was struggling. Instead of asking what she needed, they turned her into the villain. And then came the legal heat. In 2012, Lauryn was charged with tax evasion after not paying $1.8 million in federal taxes. In 2013, she served 3 months behind bars for it. That moment right there, it marked the official collapse of what was left of her mainstream career. By that time, her name was more connected to headlines than music. Her reputation as a late-showing performer became a punchline, and the same industry that once praised her turned its back. But if you ask Lauryn why it all fell apart, she'll tell you straight up. This is what really happens when you don't bow down, when you fight for your art, your rights, and your truth. And just when you thought it couldn't get more twisted, Lauryn's story kept spiraling into something deeper, darker. After her release from prison, you'd think there would be a comeback, right? A redemption arc? Nope. Instead, Lauryn Hill stayed low, popping up here and there for live shows. But even those became unpredictable. One night, she'd blow the roof off. The next, she'd hit the stage hours late or not at all. Fans didn't know what to expect, and neither did promoters. But here's what people weren't talking about enough. Lauryn wasn't just dealing with legal trouble and music industry snakes. Behind the curtain, she was tangled up in serious personal struggles. There were whispers about her relationship with Rohan Marley, Bob Marley's son, and the emotional roller coaster that came with it. They had multiple kids together, but the drama off the charts. Rumors of him not being fully present, her feeling isolated, and the stress of raising a family while battling the pressure to come back only made things harder. On top of that, folks started saying Lauryn had become involved with a controversial spiritual advisor, someone who allegedly pulled her even further from her circle, cutting off friends, former collaborators, and even family. People close to her claimed this mysterious figure had way too much influence over her life and choices, leaving Lauryn in a fog of control and confusion. And let's not forget the way the media flipped the narrative. Suddenly, Lauryn wasn't a genius, a visionary, or a revolutionary. She was a diva, unstable, washed up. They stopped asking what happened to her and started blaming her for her own downfall, ignoring everything she had fought through, spoken out against, and survived. But the real ones know Lauryn Hill didn't vanish because she lacked talent or discipline. She vanished because the system wasn't built to protect people like her. A woman who wouldn't shut up, sit down, or sell out? Yeah, that made her dangerous. And in this industry, dangerous don't last long unless they play the game. And Lauryn? She never played by anyone's rules but her own. And even with all that chaos, Lauryn Hill still had people rooting for her, fans begging for new music, hoping she'd reclaim her throne. But every time she resurfaced, something just felt off. Her energy, her presence. It was like she was there but not fully. Some called it growth, others called it trauma. Either way, the Lauryn the world once knew was no longer playing the same game. By this time, industry folks had already boxed her in as too difficult to work with. Labels didn't want to take the risk. Managers backed off. Producers didn't know how to approach her. She became a ghost in her own legacy, living proof of what happens when an artist refuses to be molded. And yet,
I think that what I've consciously decided to do is be patient and wait for those instructions again, as opposed to the instructions from the record company. You know, I can't, unfortunately, I can't fulfill their needs. You know, I can't, because it's devoid of all feeling. You know what I mean? I have to make sure that what I create you know, I never want to condescend. There are a lot of people who condescend to the audience. You know, they just think, oh, they like anything. Just throw a beat on it and put your voice on it. But if it doesn't move me, then I don't think it's worthy enough to put out there and move someone else. You know what I mean? Like it has to be something that is personally, you know, is something that I need personally. That's my barometer for whether or not it's good for the people.
Despite all the silence, her name never left people's lips. But here's where things get wild. Some say Lauryn wasn't just pushed out by the industry. She was strategically erased. Why? Because she had too much influence, too much truth, and too much power. Her lyrics weren't just catchy, they were real, raw, and political. She talked about love, identity, oppression, spirituality, all the stuff that makes certain people uncomfortable when it comes from a black woman with a mic and a brain. And don't forget, the miseducation didn't sound like anything else at the time. No, look, nobody's saying Lauryn Hill didn't have her own battles, because she did. The pressure, the fame, the media dragging her name, the snakes in the industry, even possible mental health struggles. All of that is real and raw. But let's not act like that's the whole story. The streets are buzzing heavy right now, and the whispers say this goes way deeper than just personal problems. People are talking, and what they're saying? Diddy might have had a silent hand in Lauryn's downfall, not out in the open. Nah, this is that backdoor influence type of move. The kind where deals dry up, calls stop coming in, and names get blacklisted without a single word being spoken. Quiet power moves that can erase someone from the game without a trace. And guess who's allegedly been hinting at this behind the scenes? MC Lyte. Word is, she's been dropping clues that Lauryn didn't just walk away. She got pushed by folks who couldn't handle her truth. People who didn't like that she refused to be controlled, shaped, or silenced. Now maybe we are connecting dots that don't quite line up. Maybe. But ask yourself this. Does it really sound that far-fetched? In an industry that thrives on control, image, and ego, would it really be that shocking if someone with power decided Lauryn was too real, too raw, too dangerous to let shine? Icons don't just disappear at their peak for no reason. And once you start noticing that pattern, who gets pushed up and who gets pushed out, you can't help but wonder, who's really calling the shots behind the scenes? We might need MC Lyte to finally speak out and spill everything she knows. But until then, I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Diddy really played a part in Lauryn Hill's disappearance? Let's talk about it. And if you're feeling this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the real story. See you on the next one. Gimmicks, no ghostwriters, no chasing trends, just Lauryn's soul on wax. That shook the system, and some folks in high places didn't want her repeating that magic again. They needed control, and Lauryn was uncontrollable. Even now, when she makes a rare appearance, you can feel it. She still holds that aura, that power, that presence. Whether it's one song or one speech, the room shifts when Lauryn speaks. She doesn't need the charts to remind us who she is, but the fact that she's not where she should be, that still stings. Because if Lauryn Hill had been treated with the respect, space, and support she deserved, there's no telling what kind of musical empire she could have built. And the scary part? The industry knows that too. And maybe that's exactly why they never let her fully rise again.